What's up, guys? Today we're gonna do something a little bit different. I'm working on a little project here. I've got a 2500 Chevy van, and we picked this thing up as a work van, but it looks like hell. There's a lot of work that I want to do on this thing, but it is a work van and these guys do beat these things up, so I'm not going to get too crazy. Basically what I'm going to do today is I want to get this floor. I'm just going to put a bed liner on it because they took the mat out of here and it's rusty and it looks like crap. So what I've done already is I went with a shop vac and just cleaned the thing out because it was super dirty and full of stuff. So we got rid of all that stuff, and I've got my essentials here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit this bed with just a big old hard wire brush. This bad boy right here, you guys have seen me use this in the past. I've got my safety equipment and my little headlamp ready to rock. So that's what's gonna happen with this. I'm not gonna get crazy on this. I've done a lot of bed liners in the past at professional shops. I've worked at a few body shops, and I've used really good product. And I've also used really crappy product. On the S10, I can actually show you guys. The S10 had a bed liner on it when I bought it, but it was faded and it was flaking in spots, and there were some issues. So I redid it, and it had a cheap Herculiner bed liner on it before, so that's what I used again. And Herculiner sucks, you guys. This is what Herculiner looks like. It's real. So basically, I don't even know if I would call Herculiner a real bed liner. It's more like a black paint with chunks of rubber in it, you know, and it's really rough and it's really gritty. I wouldn't use this stuff on anything that's gonna be like used, you know what I mean, as a bed or a work surface, because anything you throw in there just grabs to it and it just sticks, and I'm not a big fan of that. I like things to be able to move around. I just want to protect the bed is all I'm after. So with this here situation, I'm not too worried about getting the best product or even how long it lasts. So I'm not going to get really crazy with the prep. I'm just going to hit it with that, clean it up, and then we're probably going to spray it with a bed liner. With that being said, I think what I'm going to use on this is the cheapest stuff I can get a hold of, which is Harbor Freight's Iron Armor bed liner. And I'm going to be spraying it out of a hopper. I'm actually going to pick up a cheap little hopper right there at Harbor Freight. I think they're like 35 bucks. And I'll probably spray this out. I don't even want to mask it. I was going to brush and roll it, but I do like to see the texture on it. So you can only really get that with a hopper. I mean, you can use a certain roller and it might come out okay, but the hopper is the way to go. So I'll probably do kind of a half-ass masking job around the sides, the doorway up there, and then back around. And I'll probably just, spray it just to make it seem less junky. I'm going to run this over at first. And I called Harbor Freight to make sure that they had it in stock. They do, so we'll get on to it. Alright guys, so we went through the wire brush and we cleaned this whole thing off. It's looking pretty good now. So this is freshly wire brushed, and it's, it's still rough. It's not great, but it'll work for what I'm doing. It's way better than it was before. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take some of this painting prep. This is just wax and grease remover, basically, just Eastwood's version of it. And I'm gonna use this dirty ass rag here. I suggest you use a clean one. And I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna start at the front. I'm just gonna wipe this one way back, just like we did on some of our painting videos. Just make sure you're just wiping one way. You're not doing this back and forth. You're pulling, just wiping one direction. If you're wiping back and forth, it tends to smear. So you'll see how I do it. I'm recording the whole thing. let's get to it. All right, so open up the old grab wax and greasing over here and get my rag ready. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna soak this rag up pretty good. I'm gonna wipe this one direction, just like this, trying to get in all these corners a little bit. And you know, this is only doing so much really, but like I said, it's good enough for who it's for. I just don't want dry dust and debris to be, you know, stopping my bed liner from sticking. So we're gonna do this as a precautionary measure. Really, this stuff should be like 100% clean. And generally, I wouldn't use a wire brush. If I were doing like the bed of a truck and it was fairly in pretty good shape, like say I did a 2020, you know, Silverado, there's not gonna be any rust in that truck most likely. So I would use an 80 grit sandpaper on a DA, and that'll leave a nice hard scratch for that bed liner to adhere to. In this case, this floor is pretty rusty, it's pitted, it's rough, so I use that really rough wire brush mainly to knock away the debris of the rust more than anything. You know, in the process, it scratches up the paint and the floor and stuff and makes it a better surface for my material to adhere to, but mainly we're just trying to get that rust and that debris off, and that's still kind of what we're doing here. You know, I don't want any dust, dirt, oil. I know this guy used this van as a parts hauler for engines and things, and I can just about imagine that this floor has a lot of oils and stuff in it. I haven't noticed anything in particular yet. Just, you know, trying to do what I can without spending a bunch of time on this project and making this floor look a lot nicer, and just work a little better, you know, for the day-to-day. I don't recommend pouring this stuff all over the floor and then wiping it. It's just going to dry up on you. This stuff evaporates pretty quickly, and then you'll end up with, you know, if it doesn't all evaporate, you'll end up with puddles here and there. It's just not something. It's not the best way, in my opinion. So as I'm doing this, you know, the floor is pretty clean. It's really not bad, but I am seeing some sand and debris getting wiped back, and that's, you know, one of the reasons why I don't want to sit there and go back and forth with it either, is I'm just kicking that sand and debris back and forth. Could be going right over what I just wiped. So I'm always wiping back one direction. All right, so there you have it. We're all wiped down. I just kept wiping back, as you can see, and this spot's still wet. That's already evaporated and dry. I mean, it's good to go. Now, I still got to do my masking, being that I'm using a hopper. I keep thinking I should just roll and brush it because it's so much easier. You don't really have to mask anything off. But I do like that bumpy texture, and I know if I roll and brush it that it's going to look kind of weird. So, probably going to use a hopper. But I have to get in here and I have to kind of run some masking around my edges. And if I do that, probably going to leave some dirt in there with my feet. So this is going to happen again. I probably should have waited until it was already masked, but it doesn't hurt. I know it's dirty, so I know doing it twice is just better off anyway. So I did it once now, a quick wipe down. I'll do it again just before I'm ready to spray. And then I'll spray her and take down my masking when it's getting a little bit dry. And yeah, should be looking good. Quick update on the whole van situation is we got her masked off, boys. I think this is all I'm gonna do because I'm gonna be using a hopper and it's not gonna get too crazy. I'm gonna be close. I'll be up in here most likely, and so I don't need that plastic to go. I don't need to tent this whole thing off. It's just unnecessary. So I got it about, I don't know, a foot and a half off the bottom, and as you can see, I just kind of followed. I wasn't really planning on spraying these wheel wells originally, especially that one's got a sticker on it. I'm gonna hit it with the wire, but I just felt like it was a good spot to tape off right where the seal. They have like a a rubber sealant or whatever there, and I just felt like that was a good spot, so that's where I'm gonna go. But here's my half-ass little tape job. All right, party people, we're to the point now where we've got our van totally masked off and ready. I just did my second and final wipe down with the wax and grease remover, and it is ready to be sprayed. Now I went to Harbor Freight this morning and I picked up a few things. Of course, I can't get out of Harbor Freight without spending a bunch of money on other stuff that I don't need, but that's my own problem. We're not gonna get into that. What we are gonna get into is the stuff that we need for this project. So I have laid out here our Iron Armor truck bedded coating. This is just a gallon stuff. It's really thick from what I hear. It's just black rubber compound, so that's gonna be really good for this. We're just gonna spray that right out of this hopper that I also grabbed from Harbor Freight. You know, it's just a cheap deal with a couple of tips, and I've used these before at professional shops. A lot of guys use these to spray this stuff with. And the material I've used before, sometimes we don't even clean this out, you know. I've never used this stuff and I'm not sure how it's going to react, so this is completely disposable as far as I'm concerned. But in the past with different products, we would just leave it. We would clean out the gun, but we would leave it in the hopper. It'll dry up and then you can just grab it and peel it off as a rubber coating. We'll see how this stuff works for that. But we also have rust reformer, okay? This is designed to destroy rust on contact by bonding and transforming it into a sandable and paintable surface. Now, anytime you're doing a truck bed coating, what you want to do is make sure that your surface is really clean, well prepped, and then you want to prime it. And generally, you know, the good expensive products of BEDLINER will come with a self-etching primer of some sort that bonds to metal really good, like bare metal, and it will help the truck BEDLINER bond to it. I grabbed 2 cans of this. I grabbed the Iron Armor. They had 2 different brands of it, and I grabbed Iron Armor to stay consistent with our Iron Armor brand bed coating. In the past, I've noticed that when you're painting, it makes a lot of sense to keep brand loyal. Sometimes you can have a lot of issues with mixing brands of paint and products, so try to stay brand loyal if you can. We're gonna go in, now that we're all clean, we're gonna spray it all down with this. And you can get all this from Harbor Freight, okay? These were $5.99 a can, so we got like 12 bucks into cans for primer. That's $35 for the hopper, gun, and the tips. It comes with 3 different size tips, and then I think it's 59 bucks, so it's about $60 for a gallon of bed coating. And I'm gonna do this whole thing with a gallon. Some of the nicer BEDLINER coatings that you can get on the market, they generally come in a 2-part, so you will have like a gallon of BEDLINER and then however much catalyst that goes along with it. You mix them together and then you spray them. Some of them come with a pint of catalyst, some of them come with a quart, some come with a full gallon, and you end up with 2 gallons total, and that's really nice too. But for this will not take much, so we're gonna go with our just regular gallon. It doesn't sound like you need any kind of catalyst, you just spray it right on. All right guys, so I thought I'd walk you through this gun. So when you get this thing, you got to be careful because it just comes with a nub on it, right? With a threaded nub, and you need an adapter. Luckily I had this whole setup just sitting on another gun here in the shop. Otherwise, it would have been screwed and I would have had to go back and buy something. But so you're gonna need, like if you go to Harbor Freight and get one of these, you're gonna need, you can just get this one piece with a female end on it. No big deal, but that's what you gotta get, you know, adapted to. So I took the cone off of here, and this is the tip that was in the gun. You can see this is the largest one we have here, and then there's more of a medium-sized one and a smaller one. I'm gonna use this guy. I'm gonna use the smallest tip we have, and this is just gonna go over it like that, and it'll screw on. It's really not difficult. Basically just pull the trigger back and screw it on. Now, with these guns, there is a flow rating. Basically it's just a trigger stop is all this is. You can spin this clockwise to go in, counterclockwise to go out, and it just limits the travel of the trigger. You know, I can go back pretty far right now, and if I turn this in a ways, you know, I can only go back that far. So something to note when you're using texture guns like this is that you rarely ever need to pull that trigger back all the way. We will do a spray panel. I have a piece of sheetrock sitting in the dumpster here, so I'll just grab that and I'll put my tip in and I'll set this up, mix my material, and I'll do a test spray on that sheetrock. But you never need to pull this back. So if this is all the trigger I have, that's not enough for me personally. I'm gonna screw that way out so that that trigger has some motion. And remember too, like this, for my hands, this is really long. It's a long thing. You wanna be in a comfortable position. And if your fingers are always, you know, out here, because this is probably all the further I'm gonna pull it back. If they're way out there, it's gonna cramp up your hand. I have carpal tunnel in my hand, so it sucks. And yeah, so I have a lot of movement here. You know, that would be full open, and I'm probably, honestly, we'll see how this gun sprays, but I'm probably gonna be like here, you know, barely pulling it back. So just food for thought on that. I thought I'd walk you through this before we get started. All the directions are on the back of this. As far as getting it shaken, they want you to shake it by hand for 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a long time. I might do that, but I'll shake it by hand and then I'll stir it up with a paint stick and we'll pour it in the hopper and get rolling. So this is what we got, right? I went ahead and I shook this for a bit. And it's not as thick as I thought it'd be. It's thicker than paint by a little bit, you know, I mean, not way thicker than automotive paint, but not crazy thick. I'm going down to the bottom. There's nothing thicker down there, and there's no chunks, anything like that. So I'm gonna say this is as good as it's gonna get. I shook this for 30 seconds by hand. I didn't get crazy. But for those of you who've never used a hopper, just if you're trying to get a decent spot to pour into, just put it in a corner, man. Put it in the corner, that holds it up pretty nice. I got a little box here and a rag that I'm willing to throw in the garbage to wipe the edge of that thing so it doesn't drip everywhere. That's about it. So I'm just gonna wipe this off so I don't make a mess. Stick it right there, and I'm gonna pour this thing directly into my hopper. Try not to fill it too full to the point where, you know, you can't tip it. That might cause a problem for you. I'm gonna use about half. Now, I might have a little more than half in there, so that's what I'm gonna go with for now. And I'm gonna hook the air up, we're gonna hit it. Okay, so a lot of hoppers generally have an air valve down here to shut the air on and off, and they usually don't kick on, you know, the way this does. But basically when you hook your air to this, it has air right now and it blows continuously, so you can't really adjust air pressure. You're gonna have to adjust it off the regulator of your machine. As far as that go, I'm pretty happy with my air pressure the way it is. I'm gonna really lightly be touching this trigger because it's coming out real fast, and just be gentle with it and pay attention to what I'm doing. Well, that sums up first and maybe final coat. Went through a gallon pretty fast. I would recommend, if you're doing a truck or even a van, honestly, 2 gallons. Do 2 coats on this. Because I mean, I just did the bed, you know, I didn't even do the sides, where as a truck you're gonna have that, it's gonna be a little more square footage. So I would definitely do 2 gallons instead of the 1. I'm gonna try to get by because I just don't want to go spend the money on another gallon. But it really does need a second coat. I'm sure there are spots that are thin and see-through. Really helps you get a solid coat. And I would say this lays down really well. Lays down just as good as the better coats that I've dealt with. So here's a little closer look, and I know it's hard to see maybe on camera, but that looks just like a professional job. It's just a light, even texture. Everything's well coated. I'm sure some of my edges are maybe light. God, if I don't dare like look into it. Right now I'm kind of just letting the can sit on top of the hopper so I can get every ounce, the last bit that's in there. I'll probably scrape it too so that I can get a little extra and go through and see if I can see anything with a light that shines through red. Alright guys, I'm going to show you the part that nobody ever shows you, and that's cleaning the gun after you're done. Now this stuff, it says on the can that you can use lacquer thinner to thin it out if you're going to shoot out of a spray gun. So basically you can use lacquer thinner. I have some right here to clean the gun out. I'm not going to clean the hopper out. I've got very little lacquer thinner left. This is just stuff I had laying around the shop. I'm going to clean the gun out. I'm not going to clean the hopper out. I'm going to see if I can peel that stuff away later. Probably won't have that on the video because I got to give it a couple, probably 24 hours to dry or something. But basically I just loosen up my little hose clamp and I'm going to pop this hopper right off. And I'm going to do this into a pail. I took all the plastic when I was demasking and just put it into a pail. This might be a little difficult without like a spray gun. I'm just gonna see how this goes. You could always just throw this whole damn thing in the trash, call it a day. I don't know. Definitely recommend wearing gloves when you're doing this. I'm gonna plop it out in there. I'm gonna use that to just wipe them out. Kind of like I say, I wish I had like a toothbrush. You can see we're coming out here. I mean, it's getting it. Just a matter of getting my little fingers where they need to be. There you have it, nice and clean. Nice and clean.